President Joe Biden is vowing to respond after a drone strike on a U.S. military base in Jordan killed 3 service members and injured more than 30 others.
And we shall respond.
The drone struck the U.S. Army base in northeast Jordan on the border with Syria Sunday morning. The Biden administration believes an Iran-backed militia is behind the attack, but it's still trying to determine what group is responsible. The attack is the first time U.S. troops have been killed by enemy fire in the Middle East since the start of the war in Gaza. More countries are halting funding to the largest United Nations organization in Gaza, despite its desperate plea for continued support.
We urge all these countries to repay the UNRWA because it's a humanitarian issue.
Japan and Austria are the latest countries to suspend funding to the UN agency. It's called the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, over the allegations that 12 staff were involved in the October 7th Hamas attack. Canada, the U.S., Germany and Britain are among several countries who've already pulled funding. UNRWA is now warning it will not be able to continue operations beyond February if support is not restored. Intense fighting is continuing in Gaza, with Israeli forces pushing into the south. But ceasefire talks brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the U.S. will continue this week. Israel is calling the talks constructive, but says there are still significant gaps. This morning, Hamas repeated its stance, saying Israel must end the war and withdraw its troops before any more hostages are released. Yves Fortier joins me now. He's a former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations. Good morning. Good to see you. So let's begin with the talks that are ongoing right now in Paris about the release of prisoners in exchange for a ceasefire. What's your sense of where these negotiations sit right now? Are you feeling hopeful?
Well, good morning, Marcia. As I've told you before, I'm an optimist. I'm a veteran of the UN, having served on the Security Council, having sat on the International Court of Justice. So I believe in the process. I believe that there is a light. I don't mean to be no pun intended. There is a light at the end of the tunnel when people keep talking, and these discussions in Paris involving the U.S., France, Egypt, Qatar can only be viewed with keep your fingers crossed. But as long as they're talking, that's good. I believe in diplomacy, and diplomacy requires conversations, discussions, mediation. So I view these talks with a great deal of optimism. Yeah.
Let's talk about UNRWA and the freezing of funds for this agency. Do you see this as something that is temporary while the investigation plays out? What are your thoughts on that? More countries are joining the list.
Yeah, I hope it is. I hope it is temporary. There are bad apples in every basket, and the allegations by Israel that 12 members of this agency, this UN agency, participated in the brutal, horrific attack on Israel on the 7th of October is distressing. But I visited the headquarters in Gaza Strip of this agency. They're doing a lot of good. They're doing a lot of good vis-a-vis Palestinians who need, particularly at this moment, who need assistance, who need food, who need water. I personally regret that Canada has joined other countries in suspending the funding of the agency until such time as the issue has been investigated thoroughly. This will only injure more Palestinians. and there are enough. What is it now? About 26,000 Palestinians who have been killed since October the 7th. I believe that countries should hold their fire until such time as the investigation has been carried out and the bad apples have been removed from the bushel.
Ambassador, I know we hadn't planned on discussing this, but I'm wondering if I could just throw something at you and get your thoughts before we wrap up, because a lot of eyes on Washington right now, wondering what the U.S. will do in response to this attack on the U.S. soldiers. There has always been this ongoing concern that the war in Gaza would spread across the region, and now we have 3 U.S. service people killed, more than 30 wounded. What do you think the next move will be by Joe Biden's White House, Ambassador?
Yeah, well, we should not be surprised, Marcia, that the war in the Middle East has not been contained. Whether it's the involvement of the Hezbollah in the north of Israel, whether it's the participation by the Houthis in the strait leading to the Red Sea, whether it's the involvement of Iran, which has a lot of its how would I put it? A lot of its a lot of people who will continue to answer the suggestions, the impetus by Iran to attack Israel. It's an existential threat for Israel, and they're being attacked, from the north, from the south, from the west. But now Biden has to react. The United States has to react. It cannot simply sit passively and see some of its soldiers killed by under the direction of Iran. So keep your fingers crossed, as I do, because any extension of the conflict risks to degenerate in a yet another major war in the Middle East.
Well, we'll try to be like you and be optimistic. Yves Fortier, thank you so much. Good to see you and chat with you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcia. Bye-bye.